People that had golden child siblings. How is your siblings and parents' life right now? Story 1. The one time my golden child brother stepped out of line, I protected him. Played the hero to make sure he was safe and okay. Less than 2 weeks later, my narcissistic mom is threatening to put me into the ground, that she hates me, wants to beat the shit out of me. He's standing there watching. I look at him and he says, "Don't come to me." I don't care. This isn't my problem. What did I do? I had the audacity to move out after graduating university. Story 2. My golden child brother is essentially a male version of my narcissist mom. The weird thing is, they are basically the same person. He is literally so enmeshed with her that he's her personal lapdog and will come at my throat whenever she has an issue with me, even if he 1. Wasn't there. 2. Didn't witness me do anything wrong, because I didn't, and